First of all, congratulations. You looked genuinely surprised by the result.
Yes, I was. Not in a way that we won some parliamentary seats, but, I hoped and I predicted that if we went from 17 to 25, we would have an excellent result. But it was not 25 or 37, 1 out of 4 Dutchmen voted for my party, which was an earthquake in Dutch and maybe also European politics. So of course, I'm very pleased and grateful to all those Dutch citizens and voters, almost 2.5 million people Dutchmen who voted for my party, and that's an enormous compliment.
Now, it looks like there are a number of other parties whose voters tell pollsters they want them to form a coalition with you. But it looks like some of the opposition parties don't want to do a coalition. It looks like they want to sort of deny the results of the election. How's that going?
Yeah, we are now in the process of talking about this issue in Parliament. And you are totally right. If you look at the 4 parties that I think is possible to form a coalition with, the Conservative Liberal Party, the Farmer Party, and the new party of Pieter Omtzigt, the 4 of us would have a big majority in Parliament, and more than 80, sometimes even 90% of the voters of all those 4 parties want us to work together. Still, it's not automatically in a normal situation or country, we would have almost formed the government already. But some of those parties are hesitant, some because they have lost the elections and believe that it's not their place now to govern, whether that's a real reason or not, that's what they're saying. Others because they believe that some points out of our party program against Islamization are against our constitution, and they don't want to work with a party who works against the constitution. So it's not automatically. So I have to do my best to at least get those 4 parties around the table and talk to one another. It will probably take time. And I hope that will be the result, and that not other parties will take the initiative and indeed, as you said, steal those elections away from us. It's not that far yet. It's a possibility, but I'm still hopeful that we have a chance to form a coalition in the government.
You have a lot of ideas that you stood for over the years on immigration, on Islam, on a Brexit for the Netherlands. Obviously, in any compromise or coalition, there would be some high priorities and other things that you would maybe do later. Have you expressed what your absolute priorities are that are non-negotiable and other things that are maybe less important?
Of course. You're totally right. In Holland, unlike the United States or the United Kingdom, we don't have a two-party system. We have a multi-party system. We have something like 20 parties in parliament today. And to get a majority, you need to compromise. You cannot make sure that your whole party program will be the government program. It's impossible. If you aim for that, you will always be in the opposition. So I have to compromise. And it's a very good question. What are our priorities? Our first priority is to cut back in the enormous figures when it comes to immigration and asylum seekers. You know, Holland cannot face it anymore. The European Union cannot face it anymore. All the measures that the European Union as a collective is making are totally ineffective, and we are overcrowded, and the people are fed up with it. So the first thing is that we should take measures to stop the influx of so many asylum seekers and non-Western immigrants. This is my first priority. Second priority is that people feel that they are totally neglected, the Dutchmen, the indigenous people. They believe that while we spend 17 billion euros a year when it comes to nitrogen or climate change or all those other things, that they have trouble paying for their utilities, the rent, the gasoline for their car, the social security or the healthcare system. So we believe that we should stop feeding those leftish, liberal, ideological nonsense issues, and we should more make sure that our people have enough money in their pocket and really can help our economy and help themselves. So those issues are the two most important. Stop the immigration and the asylum seeking. Be proud of our own identity, culture, and everything that goes with that, and make sure that we make better choices with the euros that we have Don't spend it to Africa. Don't spend it to other countries in the European Union as a transfer union that we almost have in the Eurozone. Don't spend it on nitrogen and other issues. Give our own people their money back with lower taxes and lower burdens for the Dutch.
You're not the prime minister yet, and I imagine some world leaders would wait until you have that position before congratulating you, but you did win the election with an enormous number. Have any world leaders publicly congratulated you or wished you well, or how have other world leaders treated you since the election?
Well, I get more invitations or nice messages than I ever had before. I don't know whether they are public, so I should be careful what I say. But for instance, from Israel, I got from ministers, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister of Intelligence, people from Likud who invited me and congratulated me. I had a phone conversation with Viktor Orban, who called me. I know him already for a long time, so but still, who called me and congratulated me. There were politicians from all over the world, from South America to America, who public or not public did that. And I mean, it's really news. You know, you see that in Europe it was unexpected that so many people would vote against the sitting elite. You know, they didn't expect it. They are not prepared for it. They are in panic now in Brussels, for instance, for what should we do if this guy would get to power, you know? And this is also what makes it more difficult today to form a coalition in the Netherlands. So I have to be responsible. I have to be able to compromise. I have to make sure that the 2.5 million people who voted for my party also get the influence what they voted for. And that means I also will have to compromise. But the signal throughout Europe and many parts of the world is quite clear that the people are, a growing amount of people are fed up with how they are dealt with by the current and sitting elite in so many countries. You know, you saw it in other countries like Hungary, but also you see the growth of Marine Le Pen in France, of Mr. Salvini, who is in government in Italy now. We saw it in Sweden. We see in Belgium that the Vlaams Belang is doing well. We see in Germany. So you see a kind of revival of the what I call patriotic movement politically, and we need it to be politically, because if you want to change anything in our society, you need to be in charge and influential in your national democracy, and it goes for the better. And the best way to prove it is that the sitting elite is totally shocked, don't know how to deal with it, and I think that proves that we are on the right track.
I saw you last night at an event. There must have been 30 or 40 police there. And I remember when I visited you before, your security is a very high priority because of threats of violence. But there's also another fear. People who criticize immigration or Islam, they don't just have fear of assassination, they have fear of being called racist.
Yeah.
What advice would you have for people in other countries who want to take the same position as you on immigration, but are afraid of either violence or, more likely, they're afraid that they'll just be called racist?
Yes. Well, the one thing that really helps is to find a political party, to start a political party, to support an existing political party that makes it something that is more common. You know, that's what we saw in Holland. When I started my political party, exactly the same happened. I'm in the problems now with my personal security because I got 5 fatwas from Pakistan, from many Arab countries, where imams and mullahs said that I had to be killed. Today you see in Holland that not only when it comes to immigration, but also when it comes to other issues, that people are not afraid to say it anymore. You know, that's one of the differences of last week. People were whispering to one another in the last few years that, okay, I vote for this PVV and this Wilders guy, but they said it while having a coffee at their work instead of publicly. And now people are, for the first time in Holland, they are proud to do so. They say it at work. They say it when they go to the gym. They say it on a party, a birthday party with their neighbors. So at the end of the day, we make this criticism normal because we know that the elite who is ignoring it and who is calling us racist, but we are everything but racist. In Holland and in so many other countries, the indigenous people are the people that are discriminated against. It's not the people who are entering our country. In Holland, people get housing, asylum seekers get housing, and they get preferential housing before the Dutch indigenous people. So who is discriminating who? And people are really angered about that. And if you want to get to capitalize it, you need a political institution, a political group who does it. And that's what I said. We are in many more countries in Europe. Parties are getting successful. So people like you and the alternative media really help a lot by saying what a lot of other media doesn't want to broadcast or to say. But at the end of the day, you need a political translation to influence in a parliament and a government. And so that's what I would advise. Don't be afraid. Speak out, but try to canalize it in a political group.
Other countries like Canada, the Conservative Party is pretty conservative and pretty freedom-oriented, but it still has an open borders immigration policy. In the United Kingdom, the Conservative Party open borders policy every day across the English Channel. What advice would you give to freedom-oriented conservative parties who are obviously afraid of losing the vote of new immigrants? What advice would you have for Canada or the United Kingdom?
Well, don't be afraid. First, don't be afraid. A lot of people will support you. Secondly, it's a totally misconception that the immigrants would disagree, because maybe for some people, surprisingly, the immigrants agree. Many of the immigrants agree. For in Holland, many of the immigrants, even many Muslims, voted for my party because they know that when there is too much influx of immigration, that the integration and the success for them will only diminish. So they also are in favor of less immigration. They know, they see what will happen with the housing, with the income, with the jobs, with everything. So surprisingly, it's not surprisingly, but surprisingly to many people, they are often our allies. They don't want more immigrants to come as well. And the own voters, the indigenous people, they, in a growing majority, also feel the same. So don't be afraid to be political correct or incorrect. Just state your mind. People believe, I always make the comparison to one person's house. You know, you have to be able in your own house to decide who will be your guest and when the guest should leave. And this should be your autonomous and a nationwide and national decision. In Holland, most of it, we gave those powers to the European Union. Canada is a sovereign country. There is no European Union in Canada. So the Canadian government really can decide to close the borders for people they don't want to enter, like President Trump did and is planning to do if he would win next year by people from certain countries. So don't be afraid. Just do it, and you will be surprised how many people support it, including the immigrants themselves.
I'm grateful to you for fitting us in your schedule. I know you have to leave in about 3 minutes. Can I put some ideas to you and you can give me like a 30-second top-of-mind response? What are your thoughts on Russia, Ukraine in 30 seconds, if it's possible?
Yeah, well, I believe that Russia is the bad guy here. I believe that whatever you think of the Ukraine, corrupt country, but it's a sovereign nation, and Russia should not have started the war against Ukraine. So I'm on the part of the Ukraine here. I believe that the Dutch should not give defense material to them because we have very little material ourselves, and other nations are doing it. I believe there should be negotiations instead of a war, but I'm very clear that the one who started it is Russia and nobody else.
How about the war between Israel and Hamas? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's not a war about land. That is my message. It's a war about ideology. If you give land, like my friend Ariel Sharon, I knew him very well. I was his guest when he was when he started to become a president, prime minister. I was at his funeral. I know him for so many years. He was a great guy. One mistake he made was giving Gaza, return Gaza to the Palestinians. Don't make the mistake that if you give a part of land to Palestinians or others, that the problem will be solved, because it's not a problem of land; it's a problem of ideology. It's people who hate, who love death, against people who cherish life. It's Israel is fighting our war. We should support Israel because they have our values. They are a democratic nation. And if Israel falls, I always say if Jerusalem falls, Rome, Paris, Amsterdam will be next. So I support the decisions the Israeli make. They should make the decisions what they should do militarily or politically. But I believe we should all support Israel all the way instead of criticizing them.
I think I only have time for one last question. Earlier you mentioned independent media like Rebel News. In Canada and in the United Kingdom and in Ireland and many countries, there are new censorship laws. You yourself have been prosecuted for hate speech. Are you worried about global censorship, New Zealand, places like that? What are your thoughts on censorship?
No, I'm very worried about that. It's that the governments, the parties, the institutions that know that they cannot win on the basis of arguments, that they are afraid for opponents to speak the truth. And even if they don't consider it the truth, it is an opinion and people should be informed by both ways. I don't mind if there are government institutions or government television, but there should also be free speech for almost everything. I really long for a kind of First Amendment that the Americans have, that we should have, that Canada should have, that the whole free world should have. We should never accept that they would not allow us to speak our mind, and stations like Rebel Media and yourself are the most important today. I believe many more people follow you and watch your programs than they did 10 years ago, for exactly the reason, not only because you have a good program, because they have no alternative to look at. So this is also why politics is important. We had in Holland, now in the last few months, we had this new public broadcaster called Ongehoord Nederland. They were within the public system, but they were very critical. And the all elite said we should forbid them because they said something wrong about whatever. And they didn't like it. And finally now, after the elections, when they saw that my party was big, the secretary of media said that they could stay in the air and they should not have to shut down. And I don't know if it's a direct result of our winning the elections, but it's too much of a coincidence that they did it a few days after the elections. So again, here, political power fighting for freedom of speech against what the elite wants to do, and not to let us speak the truth, is the only way, and we will get there. I mean, if the winning of the PVV means anything for other nations, is that there is hope for change.
Congratulations again, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you for coming here.